feed us.
The moment it hit me that Sony Santa Monica's brand new reboot of God of War was a little overwhelming for my pea-sized brain was after I'd beaten the game and started to re-explore some of the areas that I missed the first time through. And I realized that there were some easy-to-find chests right at the beginning of the game that I had just walked right by because there were just so many details in this extraordinary, absolutely gorgeous video game. And I'm going to start this review by saying that I'm not spoiling anything. Sony has been explicit that they've worked for years and years building us a brand new God of War experience, and they don't want any of us reviewers spoiling this, so I won't tell you about the story stuff. I'm going to give you sort of the top level sort of feelings that I had as I played this game.
You tell me.
And I think you've got some big questions. One of them, I think, is going to be how much is this a copycat of some of the stuff that we've seen in games like The Last of Us or Naughty Dog's Uncharted? Because as probably everybody is aware, and I don't think I'm spoiling anything here, the camera perspective for God of War is sort of over the shoulders behind Kratos, and it feels very reminiscent of some of the action-adventure games that we played from Naughty Dog in the past. And it does change up the experience in some very, very profound ways because, you know, most of the God of War experiences that we played before have shifted the camera around, but primarily have been much more action-oriented, and Kratos could jump and fly and just become this whirling dervish of, fury and anger. That core ferocity remains in our brand new God of War, but this camera perspective makes the experience much more intimate and much more personal, and I know that that was the idea. That was the whole concept behind here. And I think you're going to ask me, does that make the game less fun or not sort of true to its roots?
Is that a question?
And I would say that no, it doesn't. And this is a game really working hard to deliver a brand new experience and to kind of revitalize this franchise, to mature it, and to bring it to a new generation of game player, but to also kind of show that this is how video games kind of evolve and have to evolve. And we saw something similar to that with the way that Breath of the Wild really evolved the Legend of Zelda kind of concepts and tropes and gave us a brand new experience. And there's a great parallel here with what Sony Santa Monica has done with our brand new God of War. Now, I think the second big question you're going to have is, are we constantly annoyed by this little brat kid that we got to take care of, Kratos' son, Atreus?
I am so sorry.
And I will say that Atreus is not annoying in the least, and he gives Kratos so much more depth than what I was expecting and hopefully what you're expecting, and that is what is so unbelievably impressive about this title. The Kratos games and the God of War games have been so enjoyable, but now it's really about getting to know this character and the relationship that he has with the people that he cares about that hits you right here. You're still going to kill a lot of enemies, but it's just a profoundly moving and beautiful experience right from the gate, and you just follow this story along, and I was fully transported. This was not only an exquisite acknowledgement of Kratos' roots and his history, but it also was small and personal and meaningful. You know, it's not cluttered and littered with lots of different characters that we have to kind of know and memorize. We have encounters along the way that are powerful and heavy and resonate, and they're expertly performed.
First, you need to cut off my head.
Wait, what?
And I got to tell you that Christopher Judge as our new Kratos, and it's kind of a shame that we've lost the original voice actor, but Christopher Judge is so perfect as this mature, kind of beaten down Kratos who just wants to have a life. He wants to get on with his life.
Open the door! We need your help!
The analogy struck me, and I brought this up with Blake when he asked me point blank, is it better than the previous God of War games? And I said, no, it's not better, but it's more meaningful, it's more powerful, and it's better in its storytelling and its concept. And I likened it to how Logan made me and millions of people around the world love Hugh Jackman and his performance as the Wolverine even more. even though the resonance of X-Men 1 and especially X2 still mattered to me so much, those were, in my mind, better sort of comic book escapes when they originally came out, and they resonate like that. And it's the same thing with God of War 1 and especially God of War 2, where they kind of perfected the game design and the gameplay, and they kind of really cemented Kratos as this eternal, important character in Sony's pantheon of characters. They will forever, matter and resonate for me. But this new God of War acts just like Logan did. It empowers this character and gives him, real gravitas and real meaning and real nuance, that it goes beyond his torture and his anger and his pain and his fury, and you understand why, which is incredible. And I can't believe I'm talking so much about the emotional sort of impact of God of War, but it's right there. It's front and center, and it's why it's one of, if not the best PlayStation 4 experience I've had so far. It's incredible, and I really, really loved it.
The truth.
In terms of gameplay, yes, you are going to be doling out punishment like crazy throughout this experience, and there's an incredible amount of imagination in this new sort of Norse setting. We get to travel to different realms and see lots of variety, of course, big giant creatures that we fight, and little scurrying bad guys that may sort of pop in from the ether or fly in with cool armor and weaponry, and we got to take them out in lots of cool ways. And your new axe that you have, which kind of works a little bit like Thor's hammer, which is kind of in keeping with this Norse mythology overview, is wonderful. I mean, you can slice and dice and then hurl it at different objects and recall it right away, and it works in lots of cool ways. And you can level it up. One of the great things that stands out for the God of War franchise is that they've always had RPG-light, skill trees and things like that. That remains in here. You've got weaponry that you can augment. You have magical abilities. There's lots of sort of different armor choices that you can toggle on and off, and then you can throw runes into them. You pick up enchantments and things like that will augment your overall sort of counters on your strength and your luck and your defensive sort of attributes and stuff like that. So there's lots of sort of toggleable ways that you can enjoy and appreciate this thing. Once you get past the main game and you have only seen a portion of this incredible world that Sony Santa Monica has built for us, there's also lots of unexplored areas for you to go back to. There are also lots of allusions to what may come in the future, and it left me breathless. The last thing that I will say about this game is that, I review a million things throughout the year, every year, and I have for many years. And, there's often times where I'm reviewing video games where I get it, I know how I feel about it, I can sort of move on from it, and I can let it go, and I can go and talk about it and tell you guys how I feel about everything. With God of War, I was hanging on for dear life. I was not letting go of that controller, and I loved being in this fantasy world. This is as rich a fantasy world as anything you've seen on screen anywhere, whether it's the Game of Thrones show or it's whatever, Lord of the Rings, anything you can throw at me. I loved being in this new world that was developed for this new God of War as much as anything else out there, and I did not want to let it go. So apologies to my wife and my daughter. When this came in, basically time stopped, and the world stopped, and I had to just devote my life to this game because that's the kind of hook and hold it has. It is exceptional, and right now I can't think of a game that has given me more pleasure on the PlayStation 4 since it's launched than this title. And I definitely need to ruminate and reflect and replay and, try out some of the other difficulty levels. I'm not done talking about God of War, but this is an astounding work of creativity and an important part of our video game industry forever. And hats off to Cory Barlog and the Sony Santa Monica team. You've done it again in an extraordinary way. God of War gets a 10 out of 10 from me.